This is The Fall of Ferdiad by Cameron Widmark.
Ferdiad, please! Please, no, Ferdiad, please!
Remember.
Please stay with me, Ferdiad! Ferdiad, come on, please, Ferdiad!
I remember.
Ferdiad! Hey, Ferdiad! Ferdiad!
I roused myself from a daydream. I saw you running towards me on the rocky shores of Scoth's Isle. There you were, beaming brightly as the sunset. The thrice-born son of Lugh, demigod of Ulster, the hound of Cúlainn. My love.
Psst. Hey, Ferdiad, what'd you get from Scoth?
God. I almost forgot how hyper you were. You can never sit still. Charming you were. Oh, I just got this, I got this armor set. And before you I showed the purple horned skin. An armor said to withstand any blow. You guided your graceful fingers along the dragon scales that made it up. Like a fiddle player those fingers were. Lithe and delicate. But practiced. I barely even noticed that you said anything after that. Ferdiad? Ferdiad? Hey, Ferdiad! What? Sorry. Dozed off. What'd you get from Scoth? You got a big smile on your face as you presented me what you had. Well, I got this. And without either of us knowing, you presented me with the object that would kill me in the end. The Gaia-Boga. A beautiful spear, pure white, made of the bones of sea monsters. When thrown, it is said to strike without mercy and without kindness. It was almost surprising to me. How could such a kind and gentle soul use such a violent and dangerous weapon? But that thought quickly passed, as most thoughts do when you're kids. It was our last day on Scoth's Isle, and we wanted to make the most of it. So together, on that beach, on that wonderful beach, we played. We played together like the children we were. And for a moment, everything was carefree. The waves lapped gently at our ankles, and the rocks didn't stab our feet. And I remember a perfect image of you. The sunset right behind you, cascading your hair into beautiful waves of yellow and red and gold. And your smile. You always have the most infectious smile, and I can't help but beam when you beam. Maybe that's a sunlight god thing, but I didn't care. I smiled so wide. Of course, when my guard was down, you then splashed me with water, and then it was on. It was so on. We splashed each other, and we played, and we wrestled in the rocks. And we laid together. And I kissed you. And as the sun set, you asked me a question. Hey, Ferdiad, what are you going to do once you leave Scoth's Isle? I'm going to go home. I'm going to be a shield to the Connacht people. I'm gonna be a brave warrior, defend my home, live with honor, but also live a simple life. A quiet one. Just to know my home is safe is enough for me. That's beautiful. What about you? I couldn't see your face, but I could feel your whole body tense as you smiled. You always did it with your whole body. I'm gonna be the greatest hero in Ireland. I'm gonna touch the sky, and I'm gonna skewer monsters, and I'm gonna fight armies with my bare hands, and at the end of the day, I'm going to burn brightly. Brighter than any star in Ireland, or Scotland, or Britain, or even the world. Just know that one day, everyone will know the name Cuchulainn. I held him close to me. And if you ever need me, I'll be right by your side. Die for ye. And then, we shared our last night together. For a long, long time. We both left Skahazile, and I went home. And for a while, I was there, being the shield that they needed. And I was happy, even though I missed you. I missed you a lot. But all that changed when... You know he doesn't care about you, right? The cattle raid of Cooley. A death trap for a cow. It all started when Queen Maeve, a sly and deceitful queen. She wanted all the things that her husband had, the king. And when they compared their fortune, she was one cow short, one prize bull. And upon learning that Ulster, our neighbour, had such a bull, she would do anything to acquire it. And thus she took her armies and set foot on Ulster soil. And as soon as she did so, a curse afflicted all the men of Ulster with terrible labour pains, as if they were all giving birth to children. All except one, the mighty hero of Ulster, Cuchulainn. Immune to the curse due to his partial divinity as a thrice-born son of Lugh, he stood before the army and challenged them all in single combat. For months this went on. Cuchulainn slew any man that dare raise his sword against him, despite rampant cheating from Maeve. A dishonourable queen. But for all my gripes against Queen Maeve, there was one thing I held out hope for. And that's that she wouldn't send me to fight. I prayed. I prayed to the entire Tuatha De Danann, please. Please don't have her summon me. I do not want to fight. I do not want to fight, my brother. And for months my prayers were answered. Until I was summoned, given drink and food, fed well, drank well. I was a fool for drinking so much, but Maeve had a way with words. Even though you know she was cutthroat, she could make you feel like the only thing in the world. Honeyed words from the viper's lips. But the honey was sweet. When I was drunk enough to be pliable, she started to put on the pressure. She offered me riches. She offered me land. Offered me the most beautiful woman in all of Ireland. But I declined. I was content protecting my home. This war was for a cow, and I had no stake in it. She asked, I denied. But as I got up to leave, she said those cursed words. You know he doesn't care about you, right? What? You know the Hound of Ulster doesn't care for you, right? Piss off, you fucking hag. That wasn't my best retort, but I was drunk and not sound of mind. Maeve's mind was sharp. Ferdiad, how long has it been since you have seen Cuchulainn? Months? Years? Do tell. I didn't answer that. You see, I have seen Cuchulainn over the past many months. I've seen him most effectively kill my men one by one. Every soldier I send at him, he disposes of them like playthings. Well, he used to. Ferdiad, I want you to hear me when I say this. In the past months, something has changed in my combatant. I pride myself on my observation skills, so you can trust me to tell the truth when I say this. When he first started killing my men, there was something idealistic about it. It seems he was eager to do so, like a child playing hero. But with every man he kills, every man he decapitates or skewers or bludgeons to death, a bit of that fades, Ferdiad. A bit of it goes and goes and goes. I'm not sure if it's something that you saw in him, but that man you once knew is going. But if he isn't, I intend to keep throwing man after man at him until this dog of Ulster is sick and rabid and dead. Now, Ferdiad, you have a chance to stop this. You are not only the one person in the army that could face him, but you are the one person in my army who could convince him to stand down. Do you understand what I'm saying to you, Ferdiad? I could feel my fist clench. I thought of all the horrible things I could say to her in that moment. But all I said was, I understand. I will meet him at the ford tomorrow. Good night, my liege. And I walked out. That night, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't do anything. I just thought, what the hell am I going to do? What am I going to do? Donning my armor, equipping my weapons, I went out of Connacht's camp, under the stars, and on the grasses I walked, and I breathed. I stayed there till sunrise, breathing, thinking, but not sleeping. What roused me from that trance was hoofbeats, loud and strong. I looked up and there I saw him. Cuchulainn, my friend. He'd grown nicely since we last met. Shoulders broader, hair longer, muscles more defined. And his red gold hair glowed in the sunlight. But something was missing. His smile. There was no trace of it on his face. It was just cold as steel, forced into a grim expression of determination as he rode towards his enemy. Oh my God. I feared for a moment, but then he saw me. And he was back. His smile returned in full force, bursting out his cheekbones. He leapt from his chariot like some crazy person, and he ran towards me with full speed, and he embraced me. He embraced me. And I embraced him.
Thaddeus, what are you doing here?
God, I forgot how loud he was. How joyous. Maybe he had forgotten too. But his smile brought back so many memories. So many good memories that I had buried so deep the night before. And then memories of the night before surfaced again. Ku, I am to be your next opponent, but we don't have to fight. Do you remember the arms we took up against each other when we trained with Skaha? Of course, darts and shields. Right. So I proclaim as the first to reach the ford that the arms we take up today will be darts and shields. With that, Ku's charioteer began to prep weapons for the both of us. Now, Ku, I do not wish to spill any of your blood, but I must fight. So I wager you this. We will go against each other as we did at Skahaz. Darts and shields, and the first to make a mark on the other, to get past their shield, will have to surrender. If I win, you will stand down and Connacht will raid, and you will not be harmed. But if you win, I will stand down, and there's no one else in Maeve's army who can face you. The war will be as good as won. Ku pondered for a moment until he said, All right, let us face each other as we once did. As kin. As kin, I replied. Soon we took up our arms, and the match began. Fast as diving falcons, darts began to fly through the air. 1, 2, 3, quick as thrice greased lightning. You could hardly tell they were there, but you knew they were flying, because the sound of thunking against wood would resound any time a dart would hit its mark. Well, at least tried. You see, every dart that was thrown that day either hit open air or the wood of a shield. Showers of wood and splinters flew through the air as each dart hit its shield and sent them flying. Ku and I looked at each other, smiling infectious smiles. We beamed like boys because in that moment we didn't care about kings or countries or cows. In that moment, the battle became not about a war, but about bragging rights. It was a battle of honor. It was a battle to see who would win, and that winner would get to do a little dance, stick their tongue out at the loser, and say, "Nana nana boo boo, I won!" We both knew it was on, and we were competitive. We were competitive as any young buck could be. And as we threw darts for hours, the sun rose and set. And as it made its last glimmer over the horizon, we stopped, as was customary at the time, and we checked our bodies. We triple-checked our bodies, but nothing. Not a single mark. A draw. Left a sour taste in our mouths, I'll tell you that. And as the air of combat faded, I realized that I would have to fight Ku again. But all thoughts like that were rushed from my head when I heard him shout, "Ferdiad, you've gotten so much better! Come, let us make camp together. We will sleep by each other's side just like the old days. Come, be with me again. Please." He was so eager and honest, and I couldn't say no to him. And so together we camped beside the ford, and we stayed under the stars. Our horses were reined together, and our charioteers shared a meal. And Ku and I talked. "Ferdiad." "Yes, Ku?" "Why are you out here?" Well, it seems silly in hindsight. "Really? Why?" "Well, Queen Maeve." As soon as I mentioned her name, Ku spat in disgust. I never recalled him being so bitter about anything. Well, I shook it off and continued. She said that you changed. That you'd become sort of heartless. And that you didn't care about me anymore. Ku crawled beside me, looking me in the eyes. "Ferdiad, I will never not care about you. You are my brother, and you are someone I hold very closely to my heart. Even if we're far away, you will always be here." He put my hand on his chest, and I could feel his heartbeat. Strong, steady, reliable, just like him. "Thank you, my love."
He smiled at me. And we slept together, sharing one bed, one heart, one fire. But as all nights do, that night came and went, and the morning came soon after. I slept heavily that night, so Ku made it to the ford first. He knelt, calmly beside the waters. I walked up and stood beside him and asked, "So, what do we do now?" Ku rose from his knees and looked at me.
Well, I think we should keep going about our little wager. But as the first to reach the ford, I declare that we will fight with horse and chariot.
When Ku proclaimed that, I got a bit worried. Chariot jousting was a lot more dangerous than just darts and shields. Ku must have saw my concern and said,
Don't worry so much. The new wager will be whoever unseats the other from the chariot first wins. Same rules apply, and then we'll be done by the day. Sound fair?
"Yeah, sounds fair.
I'll see you on the horse. And try not to get knocked off too soon. I'd hate to tarnish your reputation." "Oh, you're on! Leg! Horses!"
And so our chariots arrived, pulled by horses with hoofbeats like thunder. Mighty were our steeds, and steady were the hands of our charioteers. My chariot was decked out with lances galore and a smiting sword at my hip, but I didn't plan on using any of them to their fullest extent. My goal was simple: get Ku off the chariot. Whatever it took, I would save that man. I was so consumed by this thought that I didn't even realize you were charging at me until I heard the sound of your horse's hoofbeats, and I looked up and I saw you laughing as you angled your lance at me. I bid my charioteer to ride, and our first clash began. Our first collision exploded in a shower of wooden sparks and laughter. Ha ha! Your lance glanced off my purple horned skin while mine bounced off your shield, and we looked at each other, and it was on once again. You beamed at me with that infectious smile of yours, and I smiled back, and together we threw our heads back and laughed. It was so good to test my arm and my skill and my strength against you once more. And for hours we played. But after those hours, I came to a realization. I could not unseat Ku. And another one. He could not unseat me. We were far too evenly matched, so I had to find a way to finish it today. And that's when I saw your charioteer, Leg. You know, later I heard you were great friends. And in the end, he mourned me beside you. And at your end, he died beside you. A faithful man. I'm sorry what I did to him. In our next clash, with only an hour of daylight, I angled my lance straight for Leg. When we collided, I broke off a piece of wood and jammed it in his shoulder. Just enough so he wouldn't be able to pilot anymore. Just enough so I could get Ku off that chariot. But upon seeing the blood of his comrade, I heard Ku cry out, "Leg!" Ku saw his friend's blood be shed, and he stopped the chariot himself. He set Leg down in his gentle way. And once Leg was safe, he turned towards me. I saw what Maeve meant. Steel across his eyes. Just the impenetrable hound of Ulster. He didn't say anything. He just took the reins himself, began to chariot for himself, and came at me with renewed force. The clash for that last hour was vicious. Neither of us laughed. In the next clash, Ku hit me so hard I had to turn my knuckles white just to hang on in the chariot, and from then on we struck with renewed force, the intent to maim, to ruin, to get anything, to get them off. And for an hour we became beasts. We roared over the sound of our booming chariots, striking, lancing, and soon our lances ran out. And so we drew our swords and began to slash at each other. Deep cuts were made in those last minutes. Cuts that not only ate away at our flesh, but at our moral being. You see, to land a decisive strike, one had to mean it when they swung. But to stay in the chariot, one had to close off every bit of their moral being. So we opened ourselves to pain and then closed off over and over and over. But it was only for a few minutes. And finally, the sun went down. We looked at each other, neither unhorsed. And I didn't know how to approach him. Once it was over, and I felt these emotions flooding back into me, shame, regret, fear, I couldn't approach him. But he came to me. He kissed me. Let us sleep together again. Please. He sounded so far. So once again we slept beside one fire. Our charioteers shared a meal, and our horses were reined together. As we sat beside each other, I said, "Cool. You can end this. It's just you, Ku. It's just you against a whole army. You can go." Ferdiad, a man I respect with my whole heart, once told me it was their utmost dream just to protect their home, to be their shield. What sort of man would I be to him if I left my home unguarded? I think that man would understand if it was to save yourself. Ferdiad, if you are in the same position that I am right now, you'd do the exact same thing. I'm not going to leave my home defenseless. But you, Ferdiad, you can end this. You have a whole army backing you. Why is it that you have to fight? Why does it have to be you that's fighting me, Ferdiad? Why you? He was sitting up at this point and he was looking at me straight in the eyes. They were pained, and I wondered how long he'd been holding on to that. Because if you continue to fight, you will lose yourself. That doesn't matter, don't you see? There are men and women and children in my home. And May's army will ruin all of them just for the sake of a single cow. And you trade the lives of hundreds of people just for the sake of a single man? Yes, because it is you, Cuchulainn. I don't care about the Ulster folk. That curse that they have on their heads, that's their own fault. It's because of their own misdeeds. It is not your cross to bear. You don't have to do this. You can be safe. You can be free. Why not? Because that is not what a hero would do. I told you my dream long ago, Ferdiad, and I love you. But if you are willing to trade the lives of hundreds for your own passions, then when you meet me at the ford tomorrow, we will do battle. I love you, and I'm sorry. And with that, he turned over and slept again. And the night, as all nights do, came and went. I couldn't sleep that night. So I got up and went to the ford, looking for some guidance, truth, or whatever. But I received nothing. The only sound I heard that night was the water of the ford, almost beckoning, drawing me in. The lack of sleep was getting to me, but I couldn't sleep. I couldn't. I mean, if I was just left with my thoughts, then who knows where they'd turn. So I stayed awake. And I knew that I would fight that day. I didn't know what for, but I knew I would fight. I mean, there's really not much else I could turn to. Surely there had to be an answer in blows. I heard the footsteps of my adversary coming up behind me. So, what'll it be today? As the first to reach the fort, I declare that today's match will be with smiting swords. My foe nodded. We equipped our swords, and our clash began. I'm not proud of what happened that day. Smiting swords are heavy and sharp and powerful. And they're meant to kill. That's what we tried to do. For hours. Leaving deep, red cuts in each other, slicing off bits of flesh and cutting down to the bone. By the time the sun went down, we were so gone. Both bloody and feral, that we would have kept going if our charioteers had not told us that the sun had set. And the battle was done. We looked at each other. Nothing. His hair was no longer red and gold like sunlight. It was just covered in blood. It was an opening. It was something I could pull back to expose his neck and drag my sword against. And his face was not something I would want to hold and cherish and kiss. It was something I wanted to smash the pommel of my sword against. And his heart, his strong, steady, loyal, powerful heart, it infuriated me that it kept beating in his chest! And that night, we did not share a bed. Our charioteers did not share a meal, and our horses were reined far from each other. We were foes. Why would we sleep together? That night I did sleep, most likely from exhaustion, and I dreamt I was drowning. I tried to swim to the surface, looking for sunlight, but I was surrounded by water. And something else. In the darkness of the waters, I saw two beaming yellow eyes looking at me. A great sea serpent. And we looked at each other. And it killed me. No mercy. No thought. Just a predator killing its prey. As all deaths truly are. From that nightmare I woke up. And like all other nights before, the night came and went. And the final morning had come. Morning came without mercy, as was the will of time. And so I went to the fort, only to find my foe already there. The hound looked at me, covered in scars and bandages. It was a sick and wounded animal. It barked at me. As the first to reach the ford, I declare that the arms of the day will be up to the wielder's choice. But we will fight within its waters. Thus, I declare the feat of the ford. I nodded. I put on my purple horned skin, my best shield, and a falchion at my side, tying 3 stones around my kilt so I may not be pierced by any underhanded weapons. I stepped into the freezing water and met my enemy. We charged at each other, the hound glancing off my shield with his spear. 1, 2, 3 strikes. I buffeted back his third one and struck him well with my sword, sending him into the ford. When he rose, he was even more monstrous. A demon. He leapt upon me, but I buffeted him back again, into the ford, leaping into the ford. He would perish where he stood. Just die! I slashed at him with my sword, landing a hit. I slashed at him with my sword. He buffeted me back, glancing with his spear. Slash, spear, slash, spear. We were both in it, in the ford, the freezing cold, our stamina drained. And I heard the hound howl for the Gaiabulaga. And looking downstream, I saw it. The sea serpent, bone white, coming towards us. Instinctively, I backed away. But that just allowed him to pick it up, and we stood there looking at each other. Me and the foe. Me and the hound. Me and Ku. Me and Ku. For a moment, just a moment before he threw, I saw what I had lost. You see, Ku had beaten out my humanity the day before. I was an animal. But Ku, for that last moment, had a spark of humanity in his eyes. And I saw the pain he felt. He didn't want to do this. And somehow, throughout our entire battle, he kept that humanity in him. And he knew that to finish it, he'd have to kill that part of him. And my heart broke. Because in that moment before he threw, I saw his pain, and I saw his want, and I saw his need, and I saw his love, and I saw his long-forgotten smile, and I saw him choose to throw it all away, to shut it off, and to kill it, to end the pain. I saw what I did to him, and in that moment before he threw, I saw him die. And my heart broke. Whistling through the air, the Gaiabulaga struck true. And my heart broke once more. And I felt the sins of my heart explode outward. Barbs from a rose bush entered my heart and burst out, running through my arteries, pricking out my skin, exploding throughout my bloodstream. I was crucified from the inside. That is what becomes of those who choose to lose their love. That is what becomes of those who choose to pick up the smiting sword, who choose to go out on the field of battle to kill their friends and the ones that they love. That is what becomes of them. Blood exploded out of me, veins eking out from my wound. From my heart, I fell to the ground, into the water. And soon, I was picked up by Ku, my love. And I felt the regret mixing with the blood of my veins. But I looked at him as I lay dying, and I remembered. I remembered Huchaman, the one who I love. The one who is too energetic, too hyper, too loud. And I remembered his smile. And I remembered the beach. And I remembered love. I remembered love.